Avery, whose show is this? And we're live. Welcome, everybody, here to the Lakers Lounge Podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin, joined on this fine Sunday night by Raj Chapalu to recap the Lakers beating the Portland Trail Blazers without LeBron, without Austin Reaves, very much with D'Angelo Russell and very much with Rui Hachimura. Actually, like, weirdly important game that the Lakers just won there, all things considered. We'll explain what thinking goes into that. The Lakers have a bit of a break between now and their next game. They don't play again until Friday. So that gives us a nice little time to kind of take a deep breath, look around, and gauge how we're feeling about stuff. So maybe we'll do that a little bit here as well. But we gotta give D'Lo his props. We gotta give Rui his props, especially seeing as this was one of the few times that the Lakers are going to scout Jeremy Grant. It's nice that, well, not nice if you're Jeremy Grant and you want to be a Laker, but like it's nice that if you're Rui and you want to keep your job, that game went really, really well for you. So we'll get to all of that, but Raj, the big news on the night is that Juan Soto is going to the New York Mets. I'm sure you were keeping up to date on that situation and all of that good stuff, right?
I actually wanted him to come to the Dodgers because I'm so new to this, but I saw like one Juan Soto bat. I was like, man, this guy, that would be cool to be on the Dodgers. I think I told it on this show. I think they were playing the Cleveland, whatever teams Cleveland's at. And he was having this back and forth with the pitcher. Did you see the tweet, Anthony, of the person who predicted the contract? I don't think I've ever seen that on the NBA side where a guy got the contract, the exact amount, the outs, the stipulations of it on the money. I thought that was very interesting. And that was the only.
See that. No.
Oh, you didn't see it? Okay. Yeah. It was like 2 days ago. The guy pointed it. And if you look at the replies, they're like, yeah, I'll give you this much money if you're correct. And it came out being correct.
Show me my money.
Yeah. Go check that out. But no, once I first read that as Yankees because I thought that made more sense. But baseball contracts, do they have limitations on the years in baseball? No. So
Nope.
Someone can offer like a 25-year contract and it can be within the player agreement.
It's like there's a player, Bobby Bonilla, who played for the Mets have to pay him, either the Mets or the Marlins. I'm kind of blanking at this point, but it's called Bobby Bonilla Day, and every year on that day, that team has to write him $1 million check, and that has been going since like the mid '90s. Mets, thank you, Victor. Yeah, it's a thing, and I think I think there might be a stretch provision in there too, but it's still like Shohei's contract is really long. Essentially, like what these teams want to do is, and what these players want to do is get signed for the duration of a player's prime. And, for those teams that can afford that, great, and there's a lot of teams that say they can't. Everybody's whining now. It's like, oh, what are we going to do? Like, how are the Royals ever going to afford that contract? It's like, maybe not that contract specifically, but I'm sure that the guy who owns the Royals is doing just fine.
Right.
But for like players, and it's something that baseball is kind of running into. Like Soto entered free agency in his year 25 season, or after his year 25 season. And that means that like this next contract is going to take him all the way to when he's 40. And the gamble that the team is making is that his prime is going to be so otherworldly that it'll be worth like the last 5 or so years of that contract, which, might not be the greatest. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But Soto is signed young enough, and this is why the contract is where it sits. He's
Yeah.
signed young enough to where, like, you're going to get at least 8-9 years of elite baseball. This guy's on track to be one of the greatest hitters that the game has ever seen. So it's
Baseball, their
what
contracts are all guaranteed too, right?
up that the Dodgers didn't get him. Like
Mhm.
normally, like if the Dodgers are in on a guy, especially a guy this talented, I'd be like, I'd be pretty annoyed that they didn't get him.
Yeah.
But like, one, he left the Yankees, which makes me really happy because I hate the Yankees. And then two, like, he's going to a Mets fan base that like legitimately really enjoys watching baseball. Like, those games are really fun to watch. The scene that are at those Mets games. So I'm excited about it from that standpoint. But like, I don't know, like, I'm hoping the Dodgers go out and sign Hernandez, like they bring him back. But yeah, overall, I like, kind of weird how ambivalent I am over him not going to the Dodgers. I
Well,
don't I
I
don't
feel like
I don't
you're
understand
still
what my brain is doing there. I don't get
well,
it.
you're still probably on the World Series high, I'm sure. Like, I'm sure that has a huge
It
impact on
helps.
it. If they would have lost
Yeah.
at
Had they
any
lost
point,
the World Series and then
you had
not
a
been
chance.
willing to escalate to that point, I'd be a little bit more tweaked. Like, what are we doing
Exactly.
here?
It, exactly. But now you're like, who cares?
Yeah. Have
We
fun.
won.
Good job, Mets. You go, you. I know Cranges is stoked. He's a Mets fan, so shouts to Cranges for this one. Hope it makes up for that NLCS loss. All right, so let's dive on in though to this game. The Lakers beat the Portland Trail Blazers 107-98. And for like a variety, yeah, Alex, that's right. Like, if they didn't have Shohei and they didn't get Soto, I'd be a little annoyed. But the Lakers beat the Portland Trailblazers at home. I think my favorite thing about this game is that they wore the Sunday whites on Sundays. Like right off the top, I was like, actually, the vibes going into this one were pretty good. They didn't last very long because the first quarter was kind of ugly.
Yeah.
But the Lakers again, 107-98. They improved to 13-11. The Blazers fall to 8-16. The Lakers obviously played this one without LeBron, played this one without Austin Reaves. I had thought, and it's not that I heard anything about this, but I thought that they were going to sit LeBron for this
Mhm.
game. That's why, like, when we woke up today and he was like, yeah, he's probable. I was like, is he? And then as the day wore on, they said, like, nope, now he's doubtful.
Yeah.
And I think, like, I truly believe that, like, there was probably some communication there between player and team. Like, I had somebody ask me on Twitter, how did he go from probable to doubtful in a matter of like hours? It is like, what happened to his foot? And I don't think it's anything to be concerned about. I just think he's like, okay, fine, I won't play all 82.
Yeah.
And JJ Redick's answers after the fact also kind of pointed in that direction,
Hinted.
where he's
Yeah.
like, yeah, you get some an extra few days off here. And because he didn't play this game, he will have a full week's worth of rest by the time he plays again against Minnesota on Friday. And now, look, all of this assumes that his foot is fine and this is a rest thing, but this was the right call. Like, even if he was like 80%, I'd be like, no, let's get you to 90, 95 by the time we get to Friday.
And shout out LeBron was there, next to me there at the South Bay game, cheering for Bronny as well. So maybe
Mm-hmm.
late night there after that, celebrating a South Bay win. Who knows?
Totally.
But
Ronnie
also
finally
kind of
cracked double digits.
yes, he
Got
did.
to take him out to pizza for that one.
He had a really good game, 16 points, had a block and a few, rebounds and assists. But also shows, Anthony, how those probable and doubtful stuff works, right? I think as fans, you look at that and you see probable, hey, he's feeling so much better, or
Yeah.
doubtful, like, oh man, the world's ending. And honestly, those are just ways to kind of manipulate the injury and players that are out situation. But yeah, good for LeBron. He's able to sit. If you can't sit LeBron against this Portland team, then
Yeah.
like when can you sit him? And so
Yeah.
this was the one that you had to. This was a good decision. And yeah, the Lakers have 4 days off, which now I'm not sure what we do with our time during that, but 4 days off to wait until they play a really good Minnesota team that's going to be pretty upset after a loss tonight to the Warriors.
Yeah, fortunately though, like Minnesota gets to like sit on that one, and I don't think it'll like fester. I think by the time by the time we get to Friday, I think that game will be behind him. You don't want to get a team on the second
Right
night of a
after.
back-to-back, right after that kind of a game.
Right.
'cause that's when they're like, whoever I see, like my dad used, still golfs, but I remember when we would go to the driving range, and neither of my younger brothers were like into golf in the way that I was. And we would go to the driving range, and dad would have like a tough day at the driving range there. And he and I would be getting home from the driving range. And I would just go to my room. I would just hang out for a little bit, and I would wait for one of the 2 younger brothers to fuck up in some way. And I'm just like, whatever you just did, the responses you're going to get probably don't deserve it, but also I get to sit here and watch. I get to sit here and watch and laugh. And like fortunately here, for the Lakers, they'll have a few days, and Minnesota will be able to sleep off some of those shanks that my dad would have off of the driveway or driving range. But yeah, for the Lakers though, you had D'Angelo Russell really led the way. Obviously, he had his highest assist total for this second time that he is a member of the Lakers, with 14. He finished the game with 28 points, 14 assists, and 5 rebounds. He had a steal and only 2 turnovers. Finished the game a plus 29. That is second only to Rui, who was a plus 31. Notably, after the second half, JJ was walking off the court doing that quick sideline interview with True before everybody headed into halftime. Made sure to really stop and say how great Rui was playing in that one too.
Yeah.
D'Lo really took over, I thought, in the second half. He had that flurry of threes. What stood out to you though from this one? I mentioned D'Lo, mentioned Rui. Anything else, or if you want to talk about either of those guys, that's fine too.
Yeah, no, I thought this was one of the best D'Lo and Rui's floor games. Rui's had that consistent 2-point streak. I think that he just had ended in their last game, but it looks like his shot selection is much better. I remember early in the year there were a lot of drives and forays to the rim that were really out of control, and I think Rui's done a better job at like controlling how he uses his force and physicality at the rim. You saw some finger rolls tonight as well, which Stu almost lost his mind that Rui did a finger roll tonight. But there are a couple plays there where he had nice drives to the basket. And look, again, this Portland defense, and this isn't to attack this player. It's just, Anthony, I watched DeAndre Ayton, and I'm like, man, that's the antithesis.
He would drive me freaking nuts.
It's everything you don't.
I couldn't watch him on my team.
It's everything you don't want in a center, right? It's low motor and 0 force, takes long twos as his high volume shots. Like that's everything that you just don't want. And that doesn't even include like sometimes the pouting when he doesn't get the ball. And then that's like psychoanalyzing. But yeah, just a player that just is very sad to see after what he was in Phoenix. But no, I thought Rui was great. D'Lo, again, I thought his best floor game in a while. Got a lot of threes because Portland's defense just isn't up to par. They're not at the level of the screen. D'Lo's was able to kind of hit over some guys going under, some step back threes as well. And his assists were just, a bunch of lobs and a bunch of easy ones on back cuts to guys. Strong game from both of those, and you needed it. LeBron and Austin still out. Hopefully both of those guys are back on Friday. But yeah, very important game. You lose this one, Anthony, and that would have been tough because I know we'll go over the schedule that's coming up pretty soon here. But yeah, both great games from both those guys. You want to see that kind of a little bit more consistent basis. You can't get 27 and 14 from D'Lo every night, but I think there's a higher floor there than even he's shown at times, and Rui as well. LeBron doesn't have to be out for Rui to be aggressive. Like those things don't have to be, they don't both have to happen at the same time. I'd like to see Rui kind of leverage his force a little bit even when LeBron's in the lineup, because when he's not, it's a lot of standing in corners and waiting for the basketball. So, and JJ highlighted Rui's playmaking, during that halftime speech, which I thought was interesting. Rui was making kind of the extra pass. Cam Reddish with some crazy, nice passing stick.
Yeah, right.
Random, very random. Cam Reddish turning into Chris Paul for 5 minutes.
Lee and I didn't record a passport today because I believe the Hawks were playing tonight, and so Lee and I will be doing passport tomorrow morning. And normally when Lee and I don't record, before we started recording on Sundays, Jen and I would do what we would call date nights on Sunday nights, where the kids go down for bed, and then she and I cook dinner and get to eat a nice quiet dinner, even if the Lakers are on, even if we're it's just nice to eat dinner in a quiet scene and in a quiet setting. So tonight, we did that, cooked some fillets. She made mac and cheese with the cayenne pepper, with like I've talked about, and some broccolini. It was a tremendous meal, one of the better meals that we've cooked in a while. And we're like sitting there, like the posts like had our glass of wine, and after the meal, it's like that adrenaline shot that you get for cooking a good meal. And I'm like, damn, this felt amazing. And so Jen goes in, and she's stacking the plates for me to put, for me to eventually wash and stuff. And as she walks away, Cam throws that like
full
he
court.
drove, and he like underhand shovel passed to Rui for an open three.
Oh, right.
And I was like, holy shit. And Jen's like, are you okay? Like, what? And I was like, oh, sorry. Yeah, no, I didn't know he had that in his bag. I don't know where that came from. Like, I don't know if he was like taking over, like a Space Jam moment, reverse Space Jam moment, where he got somebody's skill and threw that pass. But Cam Reddish does not make that pass very often.
No.
So, and I just thought, like, honestly, collectively, I thought the Lakers played a lot more free. Now, it helps that you're playing the Portland Trailblazers, and they suck. They don't play any defense, and they're banged up too. But like, I don't know. I really kind of feel like, and this is going to sound a lot more of a shot at LeBron than it is actually. I don't mean it to sound this way, but like when LeBron went into his shooting slump, the focus became getting LeBron out of that shooting slump. And I kind of felt like, the offense kind of grinded to a halt, and they got away from a lot of the motion stuff. They got away from AD as the hub. They got away from a whole bunch of stuff that I think makes basketball more fun to play than the heliocentric stuff. And like with LeBron not playing, and even to a certain extent with Austin not playing, I really kind of felt like a lot of those guys just had an opportunity to cook tonight in ways that they haven't in a while. And it looked like the basketball was a lot more fun for a lot of the guys than it's been, even aside from the fact that they won this game.
Yeah, and again, I think this is something we do this all the time, Anthony, but we kind of throw away what a player says. But D'Lo's a guy that says a lot, but I think he's he's very smart in terms of what he says, and he's like, hey, look, if you want me to put up these type of numbers, if you want me to have the impact on the game that I need the ball in my hands. It's not an excuse for what he does at times on the floor and the effort that he shows, but I think you saw this is kind of what it looks like sometimes when D'Lo, number one, has it going, has the confidence, and knows that, all right, this offense is going to be run through me. I'm going to have the control of it. I'm going to be able to shoot. I'm going to get volume shots. I'm going to be able to get in a rhythm. I think you've also seen this with Gabe, Anthony, and I don't know if we're overthinking the Gabe stuff in terms of needing to start him every night, but in terms of how we got there. But I think you've seen a lot more confidence with Gabe as well on the offensive end. And that first quarter, though, if you remember, it was a lot of, hey, AD, here's a post up, like go shoot a turnaround. Hey, AD, here's a post up, go shoot a turnaround. And the Lakers were down after the first quarter, I think 28-22. But after that, I think D'Lo checked in, and I thought got our offense really moving. Rui got hot as well, kind of, I believe in that second quarter, and kind of kept us going offensively. But yeah, sometimes it's good when a star sits out and other players are able to get in a rhythm. And this isn't anything that has to do with LeBron, but sometimes guys get shots and are able to just get in a basketball flow in ways that they wouldn't be otherwise. And I want to shout out, Quincy Olivari came in, checked in, and I was hoping we ran some stuff for him. He was kind of put to the
I was
corner a
getting
lot of
annoyed. I was like, get this guy the ball.
yeah,
What are
or
we
at
doing?
least let him screen or something. You could tell it's so fun when you watch a player, I think, that just checks in and just knows, like, all right, like, this is what I've been asking for. This is
Yeah.
what I wanted. And there's a little like twitchy jumpiness to him, and he caught that first one and was like trying to make the right play. And then after the ball kind of wandered around, he's like, no, forget that. I'm shooting this one. And he shot it and he made it. And I was just so happy for him because that dude just is an awesome person and star. And he's been playing well, in the G League and has earned this moment. But yeah, really fun game, and it just never felt close. The 8-point lead felt like 18 to me. I never thought Portland would come and do anything to take over this game. Nice game, nice win, and hopefully they can build on it for Friday.
Yeah, Olivar. Once it was announced that LeBron wasn't going to play, and obviously Austin wasn't going to play, I was like, all right. And then they announced that Olivari was going to be good to go for this one. I was like, all right, hell yeah, finally. Like, let's because that's been the problem, right? Is that we never really get looks at these guys until after a free agency decision has to be made or after they depart. And tonight, he got out there. It was real NBA minutes. This wasn't a garbage time thing. He was out there with some guys from the rotation. Still clearly, was finding his way out there.
Right.
As you would expect. But what I will say though is that he put that shot up, and there was no doubt in my mind that was going in. Like that
No.
was, and it was nothing but the bottom too. So happy for him for that one. That had to feel pretty cool. Also on the heels, no pun intended, of him signing that deal with Steph Curry's, I guess
Curry brand.
what it's like branch of the Under Armour brand, right? So
Yes.
Yeah, shouts to Quincy. Keep on making the most out of this opportunity, and tonight was fun. I like seeing him out there. I want to see more of him. I would like to. I think one of the goals that the Lakers should have over the rest of the season is to get this guy enough reps so that at the end of the year you're making an educated decision. You have enough intel and data on a guy to have like a proper scouting report.
Right, and Stu, and I'm sure Stu's not watching the South Bay games very very closely, but he was calling him a scorer, and I think a lot of people were like put him in that bucket. Anthony, I think he's like just watching him. That dude's a legit long range shooter. Like like scorers sometimes just get put in this bucket of okay, he's just a bucket getter, but then you got to separate kind of what they're actually advanced in. And I think Quincy's much more of just a long range shooter that can also score on the inside. And the other guy that I think is very interesting, and I was thinking about this because I was watching Koloko play, and he had a nice shift tonight as well. I don't know what you thought of Koloko, tonight, but I thought he played well. Thought he like defended well, and that's another like athletic, big center. And I think there's no such thing, Anthony, as a perfect backup center, right? Just if you think about it logically, a perfect backup center is eventually going to want to start. Right. So
Yeah.
like I think those guys are tough to find. And that guy again shined out. He hasn't been perfect, and he had some minutes against Bam Adebayo that we spoke on here that again, it's unfair to think he could guard Bam. But again, I thought those are nice minutes, and a young setter I hope that the Lakers keep in their system, even if he isn't even if Rob brings in a backup center that would, overtake him, or Jackson Hayes comes back and takes his minutes. And the guy that I think has played well in the opportunity that he's got, and was a real talent when he was drafted. So yeah, shout out to the G League guys that got their chance tonight.
Let's talk about Rui. You mentioned the playmaking and stuff like that too. And look, like this stuff matters because we know, like the best way to give yourself a shot at the end of your career to stay in the league is to play really, really, really well against the Lakers. Because if you become available, those guys tend to make their way to the Lakers in some way, shape, or form. Because again, no pro scouting department. Jeremy Grant in this one, obviously the Lakers and the Blazers negotiated all summer about, some kind of trying to land on a deal. Now, it wasn't much of a negotiation because it was like, we want Grant, and then
Everything.
they like, okay, you want to give us 2 picks, and the Lakers were like, no, and then they'd call back in a week or so, hey, what's the deal? And they'd be like, two first, and all right, no, and then like it was just like a very much a stalemate there. Um, Grant comes in this one, missed his first like 10 shots, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm.
Finished 1 of 12 from the field, 1 of 7 from 3-point range, 4 rebounds, an assist to steal, minus 18 on the night. That was tied for the worst of anybody in the game with Toumani Camara, and his counterpart in this one, Rui, was a game high plus 31. Rui
Yeah.
scored 3 points, 5 boards, couple assists, 4 steals, had a nice block, 3 of 5 from 3-point range, and 9 of 13 from the field overall, and did that in 39 minutes here for Rui, which given how many minutes he played tonight, I was really impressed by how focused he was defensively for all of that. Now, that always coincides with him shooting the ball well. Like
Every
if
time. Every
if he's
time.
playing well on offense, he becomes a much, much, much better
Yeah.
defender. But what'd you see from Rui tonight?
Yeah. I was gonna ask, what time do you think Jeremy Grant got back to his room today? Like, what time do you think he got back to his hotel room this morning?
He and LeBron were out celebrating Bronny's
All right,
game.
all right, two clutch clients. Forgot about that. Jeremy Grant was not at the game yesterday, but he might have showed up at the after
Yeah,
party for the
Bronny's like,
win.
"Hey, I'm heading out." Taking
Do you
Bronny
think?
out. He
Do you think
finally hit double digits in the G League. We're going out, baby.
Do you think the whole South Bay team was invited? Like, was this like a
No,
whole like no? Okay, just LeBron
it's
did.
like a soccer team. It's like we're going.
It's like, I can't even get in the club. I'm not 21. Don't worry about it. Like,
Yeah,
we'll
you're
get you in.
good. You're good.
No, yeah,
But Jeremy Grant definitely looked like he was shooting at like 3 baskets today.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I say that, because again, this isn't the greatest performance, and like I'm sure they're not going to judge Jeremy Grant off of one game, but he's definitely played better. He usually does play well versus the Lakers. If you go look at his historic, but the last few years, it's like Jeremy Grant is playing okay, then he plays the Lakers and he puts up like 35 and 15 and has his best night. But tonight was not one of those. But again, Jeremy Grant as a player, Anthony, that like would be great. I just don't know what he fixes on the Lakers. I guess like I just don't see where he fills where they have a hole on their team. Lakers need obviously defense, and I don't think he's that much better of a shooter even than Rui is, and Rui's shooting great this year anyway. And just compare in terms of comparing them as players, but no, Rui was great. Again, I love the physical force. And it's clear, and Rui's not alone in this. A lot of players are this way, but their offense fuels their defense, and teams are this way as well. In a sense, offense fuels their defense. So I think if there's a way to get Rui some early baskets, you can tell that like energizes him throughout the game. It has him, attack the rim more. He has more confidence on attacking closeouts. Again, I think his shot selection at the mid-range area is a lot better. Last year, even in the year before, it was a lot of settling for the turnaround too. And I think this year it's been a lot more, okay, let me see if I'm backing my guy down. If he doesn't stop me, then I'm going to keep going. And I think that's something that has really, has been working for him this year. But yeah, I mean, would you say, did he get to 30 points this game or?
No, he did not. He got to,
Okay.
he was at 23.
23. Okay.
AD got to 30. AD finished with 30 and 11, with 5 blocks for AD tonight.
5 blocks down.
And I think really importantly, 9 of 9 from the free throw line for AD, because and I've been meaning to go back through and find AD's game log. Here we go. So game log, I've been meaning. This is all anecdotal initially, but I wanted to see what the impact that those free throws he missed against Orlando would be. So against Orlando, he went 10 of 13 from the free throw line. Obviously missed those ones late. Next game is against Denver. He shot only 3 free throws. Game after that, and by the way, on the year, he's averaging, it's only monthly. Oh, here we go. On the year, he's averaging a hair under 9, right?
Okay.
So just stay with me while I do this math. So against Orlando, 13 free throws. Game against Denver, 3 free throws. Game
Oof.
against Phoenix, 7 free throws. San Antonio, 3. OKC, 7. Utah, 6. Minnesota, 4. Miami, 4. And then finally, the last 2. He's made his last 17 free throws in a row.
Mhm.
Against Atlanta, it was 8, and then against Portland, it was 9. And that funk that it felt like AD has been in since the Orlando game, I have one of my theories. It's just one of the things that I just steadfastly believe. But if you are reluctant to get to the free throw line, it completely fucks up the
Everything.
whole rest of your game. Everything.
Yeah.
And he went, let's see, 1, 2, let's see. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 games in a row shooting well below, below to well below how many free throws he's attempting on the year. It tells
Yeah.
me that the guy was timid. He was playing timid out there. He didn't want to get to the free throw line. Finally, against Atlanta, I don't know what happened in that got him back to that point where he was willing to get to the free throw line. He made all 8 of those ones. And then tonight again, all 9 of his free throws tonight. And like I think that might be one of those kind of those bellwether stats that we look at. Remember, like last year was the assists.
Yeah.
I think games that AD shoots at least like 9 or 10 free throws, the Lakers are going to be pretty good. And tonight he played, I thought he played with a lot more force. It was way fewer. Now he did shoot the occasional turnarounds. He was still doing that stuff, which I don't hate, like in smaller quantities. But it was a lot fewer like lazy floaters in the paint.
Yeah.
It was trying to get to the rim. It was trying to get to the line. And I think that makes him a completely different player.
I was thinking about why you were saying, how, not getting to the free throw line can derail you as a player. I think, Anthony, I'm gonna take a step further. I think Ben Simmons going from a player who was, making all-star teams to now, I don't think he'll be out the league because some team's gonna throw him a Cam Reddish bone. But like to going from that to making minimum money next season, I think that all stems from not wanting to go to the free throw line.
Yeah.
It all stems from that pass by, I forgot who passed it to him in that playoff game, but where he, refused to shoot. And I feel like that's,
Under the rim.
Under the rim. Yeah, that happened to his career. But no, with AD, and I think some of it is obviously with the free throws that he had in Orlando. I also think some of it is matchups, like against Denver, is a team that just doesn't foul him in that way as well. They're very good at kind of keeping AD off and moving him to being a jump shooter. And I think there's also a different type of jump shots, right? You were talking about the turnarounds, but there's a way to be aggressive and there's a way to settle, right? And like you can tell the difference there for him. Tonight, I thought all of his jump shots were on the aggressive end. And I think you're rewarded when you're aggressive, right? Those jump shots start going in more when you're aggressive. Those threes start to fall when you're hunting your shots instead of just shooting because you have to. And I think you see kind of the difference there. And, AD carried them tonight. His defense was otherworldly. Again, I just thought Portland had nothing for him. So many guards. And I think bad teams do this because guards think like if they score on AD, it's like it's a win, whether it's good for the team or not. But like 6-7 Portland guards just thought, hey, I have Anthony Davis on me. It's my time. Like, let me go to the rim.
Yeah.
And like AD just blocks it and no reaction in his face
Even
at all.
ripped somebody on the perimeter.
Yeah.
Like it was a guard like in ISO, and he was like, I'll take that.
Yeah, right.
We don't even get to the rim. Like, just give me the ball now.
Right. And I love it because AD, again, just no reaction at all. He's like, what are you? All right. Okay. This is how you guys want to do this tonight. Like, make this easy for me. But no, he was dominant on both ends of the floor tonight.
Yeah, I was really impressed by AD. I mean, I think like you mentioned Koloko earlier, and then we just finished talking about AD. I think a lot of it is that like I'm just happy that DeAndre Ayton isn't a Laker. Like I'm watching this guy play, and it's like, dude, And I kind of feel bad for the guy. I really think that Phoenix derailed his career when they didn't
He
want to
got
pay
his
him.
money, Anthony. I don't understand like how
No, all
he's
right, no,
still
because he got his money. He got his money like reluctantly a year later,
still the
and
contract was signed.
what they needed to do is pay him when he was doing the little things, because that Phoenix team, when it was Booker and Cam Johnson and Mikal Bridges and like that whole group,
Chris Paul.
Chris Paul was on that team. And DeAndre Ayton was doing the little things. He was
He was
setting good
awesome.
hard screens. He was playing. He was rim protecting. He was rim running, and he was finishing at the rim and with authority and stuff like that. And he was up for a contract extension after that year, and they didn't give him that contract extension. And I
Sure.
thought back then, I was like, look, you know how you incentivize people to continue doing the things that you want them to do that help you win basketball games? You pay them when they do the things that
Right.
help you win basketball games. And so what lesson he took from it, I'm not saying it was the right lesson to take from it. He should have continued to do the things that help you win basketball games. But the lesson that he took from all that was like, wait, I did all that and I didn't get paid shit. All right. Well, I'm going to do the things that historically help you get paid, and that's demand post ups. And it's like make the ISO, like the flashy ISO step back jumpers that make you look a lot more athletic than you actually are. And like it led to some really, really bad habits. Now he's not in Phoenix anymore. Now he's in a terrible situation in Portland with probably the worst coach in the NBA in Chauncey. And
Yeah.
like this entire organization that isn't going anywhere. And like I'm just watching him play, and I'm like, I really think that 1 year Phoenix told him through action, that what he did that year wasn't good enough for an extension. And he's like, okay, you want me to
Yeah.
do it? Want me to be a different version of myself? All right,
I,
here it
I,
goes. And now I'm
I
watching him now. He's terrible.
yeah, I understand taking that out on Phoenix. Like, I totally get that, and I think it's not just Aiton being like, "This is what gets me paid. This is what I like to do." And if you remember, I forgot who was the
Yeah.
coach before Monty got there in Phoenix, but it was some other coach that I think started with DeAndre Ayton, and Ayton was doing all the stuff he's doing now. He was again, I don't
Yeah.
like to use the S word, but he was soft and he wasn't rebounding well, or he had very low motor. I thought Monty got to him. Obviously, Chris Paul has a lot to do with this as well. His leadership during that team, but I understand taking down on Phoenix, but to look like this in Portland, it's the second year, and there's some weird stories about he couldn't get to the game because it snowed. Like there's some real like I've never been in a place where it snowed, so I can't talk in terms of how difficult it is to drive on snow and stuff like that. But it's just very strange stories and stuff that's coming out from him. But yeah, very glad he's not part of this, because it would drive me, and especially you, I'm sure, absolutely nuts to have DeAndre Ayton on your team.
So many just like pull up middies from a guy who should never be taking middies.
Jab step middies. It's like, what are you doing? Yeah.
He's out there doing Hakeem Olajuwon drills. Like, what are you doing? He did finish with 14 and 19, but was a minus 14 in the game.
Yeah.
All right. Let's really quickly here. We don't have any super comments, but I do want to, because we do have a bit of a break. We won't be talking here for a little bit. But the Lakers are 13 and 11. This was their 24th game on the season, Raj. Like if you had to stop and smell the roses, or if you had to like stop and avoid the roses because you don't like their smell, like how are you feeling about the Lakers at this point in the season?
Yeah, the roses were nice for a little while. Like they was smelling good. I was walking through. I was like, man, this is great. And then after a while, they started to die on the side of the roads. And I'm like, oh man, this is not right. But no one else is noticing yet. And obviously the losses starting to pile up. I think this team, if you look just big picture, I think there's a lot. This is the closest, I've told you this last pod, but this is the closest I've seen a lot of people, very much in the just break it all down. Throw it away, throw LeBron in, not throw
a lot of that.
Trade.
I've been getting a lot of that in my mentions.
Yeah, this is the most I've seen it in this era. I'm not there, at least not yet. And I think there is a foundation. This team is a top 5 offense, Anthony, when healthy. Obviously, you plug in Austin, you plug in LeBron. I think that is legit. I think what JJ has, built in terms of what they want to run, and when they do that correctly and they execute, I think that's a good place to start from. But being 28th in defense, Like you can't do anything with that. That's not a win profile that'll get you a top seed. And I've preached this for a while. I don't think this is 28th level defensive personnel. Like I understand they don't have, great defenders, but there's still a lot of veterans on this team. There should be just a little bit more savviness, like if that's a word, on the defensive end. There's a little bit more, physicality that can be leveraged that isn't, on the defensive end. And there's players on this team that I think can defend. Like that's to me where the team can make a jump. If you can get from 28th to even like 20th or 19th, that will jump this team to a much different win profile. But right now I look at it like, if they're going to defend the way they are, they're just going to lose against good teams. And we have a lot of good teams coming up: Minnesota, Memphis, Sacramento twice, I believe, coming up in the next few days, who just won by 40 tonight. That's how I look at this. And LeBron's offense, I forgot who said this, but there's a lot of talk going on, Anthony, about LeBron's decline. And is it here, right? Have we gotten here to LeBron's decline? And I'm not sure
if we're fuckery over.
Yes. And I'm not sure if it's over, but what I do see is I think people confuse not being able, like, to what your ceiling is to like what you are, right? Like it's not that LeBron still can't get 40 and 14, right? That ceiling is still there. It's just his floor now is lower. That's what changes. The ceiling stays the same. I still think in a 7-game series he can reach that ceiling on a more consistent basis, but an 82-game grind, LeBron's numbers aren't going to be the 30 or 27 and 15 or 27, 7 and 7 that it was before. And I think that's where the Lakers have to kind of move around and work around that. But that's where I'm at with the team. The defense is just atrocious. And even tonight, we're lucky that Portland's bad because they cut it to 3 to going into the fourth quarter. Just like, What are we doing? How do you let this Portland team cut it to 3 in the fourth quarter? But that's where they have to clean up going forward.
Yeah, the defense is certainly concerning. I think one staple of the LeBron AD era is a level of arrogance, towards the game and towards an opponent. They take a lot for granted. And in years past, like, and by the way, like, they are not unique in this, right? Like the Kobe Shaq Lakers were notorious for this. The notorious switch flippers, who was like all we need to do is play like 7 minutes of good basketball, and that'll be enough to win us this game. And now with the level that they need to get to, and I think that the roster is now worse. So that means they now have to get to a higher level and sustain that energy. And I think it's more difficult for like LeBron to do that on a nightly basis than it was like a couple of years ago. And he's going to flip that switch. And it's just like, like,
why is it not turning on?
Yeah, like do I need to go to the breaker? Like what's going on here? And I think the defense, I think they're going to have to kind of rethink their approach to the game in like in a more cultural level, where it's like you mentioned the offense. I there's so much, I think, creativity and stuff like that on this team. If we look at the end of the year and LeBron's averages are like 23, 5 and 4 or something like that, I think they can manufacture the extra,
Sure.
The gap there. But the defense to me is where I think, like, to this point, the Lakers have gotten away with playing at the level that LeBron is playing with energy wise. And I think if this season is going to level out, right? Because right now it's just crazy ass highs and crazy ass lows.
Yeah.
But if this season is going to level out, it's going to happen because at some point these role players and frankly Anthony Davis is going to stop playing at LeBron's level. And on a night, on some of those nights that LeBron is just kind of like easing himself into a game, AD, Austin, D'Lo, somebody else, or a combination of those guys is going to have to step up and actually like get them through that stretch so that it's more viable for LeBron to eventually flip that switch if he needs to. And ideally there would be games where he doesn't have to at all. Like there
Right.
should be the Lakers should at this point be capable of winning a game that LeBron plays in that he just kind of coasts through.
Yeah.
And that'll be something that I'm looking for, for the
Y-
rest of the year.
y- Yeah, and you were mentioning if he averages 23, 5 and whatever it is, I think that the difference is just, that 27, 7 and 7 comes with so many 35, so many
Yeah.
40s and like just otherworldly offensive performances that the Lakers need. I mean, just a few games ago, Anthony, he dropped whatever he did against Atlanta, shooting the way he did, and like,
39-point triple double. Yeah.
yeah, and the Lakers lost in overtime, which is just, I called it a disaster. LeBron played 40 plus minutes and you lose. That's just
Yeah.
awful for your process. And again, I hope they go away from the switching tonight. They played a lot more, just traditional drop coverage again against a much worse Portland team. So we'll see how much JJ buys into that, defensive film. But I thought that was the right approach. I just don't think, and maybe because it was the starters, we had Gabe and Max, I believe, in the starting lineup, more chase over guards. That's something that I hope changes. But a level of accountability on the defensive end, I think that's like top down. I think that a few games ago, I forgot which one it was, where LeBron basically called out the team for the first time, where he said, if you don't want to play, then there's nothing you can do. I forgot which post game he said that in. JJ is starting to get a little bit more snarky in terms of how he calls out the team. I don't think he wants to play the full card yet, especially when you're over 500. That's not a card you play where you just attack the whole team. But that's what I want to see going forward in the season. And 80, I think, has pulled his weight, at least on the defensive end. There's some of the big matchups where I think the offense still has to come. But yeah, if they don't fix the defense, Anthony, this team's just not going to win at a pace. You're going to be under 500 in 2 weeks.
Well, I think the comments about Rui coming off of the court 1,000,000,000% was on purpose, because like you can be the coach that calls out people all the time,
Mm-hmm.
but you also have to match that energy on the flip side when they play
Gotta
well.
uplift.
You got to balance it out. And I thought, Rui, I thought he played a really good first half on in all aspects of the game. I think it's really important that the coach notices A, and then B, Rui's people see that, like this is how this goes, man. We never grow up, like somebody from Rui's campus would be like, hey man, coach said some shit about you coming off of the court. Like, look at that. And it's going to get back to Rui, and Rui's going to like maybe focus a little bit more on doing some of those things. Now, again, like I want Rui to do some of that stuff on a night where he isn't shooting the way, as often and as well as he was.
Yeah.
But like baby steps, I guess. Like this is, and I know nobody loved the Darvin saying that 82 games is what is it, a marathon?
Marathon, yeah.
But this is one of those things here where you're trying to completely change somebody's approach to the sport in Rui, and like trying to get him to focus on defense and trying to focus to get him to focus on rebounds and cutting and screening and all of that stuff. Those are not things that he has done for the majority of his career. And when he does start doing some of those things, you got to notice it. But flip side, if he isn't doing those things, you got to break out the snark. You got to say that, like, we need more out of this guy that they paid to be a starting forward and a closing forward.
Yeah, and I don't want to compare the two players because we just attack them the whole time. But it's very DeAndre Ayton-ish, right? It's like,
yeah,
hey Rui, we know you can turn around jump shots. We know you're in for the offense, the offensive package you have. But sometimes that's not what this team needs, right? Sometimes what you are good at is not exactly what the hole that needs filled. And so sometimes we need him to just rebound and be the low man, and block shots. And he has that here and there, right? There are places where he is really protecting the rim at a high level. And it's like, hey, Rui had 3 blocks tonight. Where did that come from?
Yeah.
And that type of stuff that happens. So, and there's just a level of pride on the defensive end that you want to see. And I remember we talked about this last game, and you mentioned this as well, that players are very good at not wanting to be disrespected or not lose their own matchup. But there's that stuff that you would want kind of shown on the other side of the floor. Because I've seen him lock down Julius Randle. I've seen him lock down Karl Anthony Towns at a high effective level. You want to bring that to other games as well. So hopefully, that stays for Rui. But he's been on a nice stretch lately. He's been shooting well. He's been playing really well. He's been really contributing offensively. It feels like he's really gotten out of that 2-point funk that he was in to start the season.
I mean, look, I'm gonna be straight. One of the packages that I was told that the Lakers and Trailblazers talked about was Rui and Vando for Grant. Rui and Vando and the Lakers wanted to give up 1 pick. And Portland wanted them to give up 2. Obviously, the Lakers didn't do that. Otherwise, Grant would be a Laker. But if I know about that, I'm sure Rui's people and Rui knew about that. And he took it to Grant tonight. Completely outplayed him. And yeah, I'm I've never really wanted to give up 2 picks for Grant. Seeing him tonight is hardest of passes. He looks like he's gained weight. He looks slower out there. He used to be a really good athlete.
Yeah.
And he's not as good of an athlete anymore.
I don't think he respects that situation. I also so confused. Portland signed him and then traded Dame the same summer. It just I didn't make sense. I don't know what they were doing.
All right, that is going to do it here for this episode of the Lakers Lounge podcast. Again, the final here on this Sunday night was 107-98. As the Lakers pick up a again pretty important game given the lineup of teams that they're about to play. The games that they had, the game they had just lost against Atlanta. You needed the split here at the very, very least. Ideally, they would have won both against Atlanta and against Portland, but you definitely needed the split, and they got it. And now they kind of look ahead, and we'll see. I would imagine LeBron plays Friday. I don't know about Austin's recovery. That one's a little trickier. That those contusions, as we've seen here with basically every Lakers player who gets a contusion, you don't know. But I would be pretty surprised if LeBron didn't play Friday, and we'll keep our fingers crossed for Austin. And to those of you who sent questions on Twitter or on iTunes or super comments or in the Discord or anything like that, I'm going to answer those questions tomorrow on the Monday episode, which I'll be recording a little bit earlier in the day because I can do that kind of a thing on non-game days and I don't have to go to bed at 3 a.m. So keep an eye out for that. That'll be sometime while little man's taking his nap. So until then, and until the next time you guys hear from us, I'm Anthony Irwin. That was Raj Chapalu. This has been the Lakers Lounge. Have a great rest of your day. Make somebody else's, and we will talk to you tomorrow.